Imagine a movie set where actors didn't fear bad reviews. They feared the next sunset. We love the magic of cinema. But sometimes, the camera captures a tragedy never in the script. Behind Hollywood's glamour lies a graveyard of ruined lives. Shredded bodies, and directors who valued a perfect shot. They valued it over a beating human pulse. From radioactive fallout to actual decapitations, some films crossed the line. They obliterated the line between fiction and a death sentence. This morbid obsession traces back to 1956. Honestly, Howard Hughes made the baffling choice to cast John Wayne. He was cast as Genghis Khan, but that wasn't the fatal error. Hughes moved the production to St. George, located in Utah. It was 137 miles downwind from the Nevada test site. The government had spent years detonating nuclear bombs right there. The crew spent weeks rolling in irradiated dirt. The desert wind blew lethal isotopes right into their lungs. Hughes, driven by visual continuity, shipped 60 tons of radioactive dirt. He brought it back to Hollywood for studio reshoots. Ultimately, out of 220 people on set, 91 developed cancer. 46 died, including John Wayne and director Dick Powell. It was a mass execution authorized by a movie studio, and it was completely ignored by the actual government. They acted out a conquest while their DNA was conquered. It was conquered by silent, invisible radioactive particles. If the conqueror was born of scientific ignorance, then listen here. The making of The Exorcist felt like supernatural retaliation. Director William Friedkin wanted to disturb the universe, and it struck back. Before the film reached theaters, 9 people had tragically died. 2 actors passed away shortly after their characters were killed. Then came the mysterious fire that burned the massive house set. It burned to the ground, and everything turned to ash. Except for the bedroom, the site of the exorcism remained untouched. Actress Ellen Burstyn suffered a permanent spinal injury on set. A stunt harness jerked her violently backward during a scene. That blood-curdling scream of agony in the final cut. It isn't acting, it is 100% real trauma. Friedkin eventually brought a real priest to bless the set, but the psychological shadow had already seeped into everyone's bones. This curse-like atmosphere descended again 2 decades later. Brandon Lee was filming The Crow back in 1993, a gothic tale about a murdered musician returning from the grave. On the 31st of March, the fictional violence bled right into reality. A prop gun had a tiny bullet fragment lodged deep inside. When a fellow actor fired a harmless blank at Lee, the explosive force propelled that fragment like a live round. It tore into his abdomen, and he died on the table. He died just days before his upcoming wedding. The camera captured the exact second a star was extinguished because of a $5 mistake by a negligent assistant. The studio finished the movie using early digital technology, transforming the film into a lucrative, digital tombstone. Yet, some directors push past tragic accidents into criminal negligence. In 1982, John Landis was shooting the Twilight Zone movie. Desperate for a spectacular finale, he completely ignored labor laws. He illegally employed 2 young child actors in the middle of the night. They filmed near live explosives, ignoring the pyrotechnics team. A low-flying helicopter hovered 25 feet above the actors. Massive mortar explosions detonated, and the intense heat delaminated the blades. The machine plummeted, and the blades acted as a giant scythe. Vic Morrow and a 7-year-old child were decapitated instantly, while a 6-year-old was horribly crushed to death. This brutal massacre was captured from multiple camera angles. For the first time, a director faced actual manslaughter charges. Landis was acquitted, but the horrific footage remains a permanent reminder. A reminder of a filmmaker's dangerously unchecked ego. The industry's desire for extreme realism peaked with Cannibal Holocaust. Ruggero Deodato crafted a movie so viscerally convincing. The Italian government actually arrested him for real murder. As the pioneer of found footage, it depicted a slaughtered crew. The gore was so raw that a magistrate believed it. Diodato was forced to drag the actors into court as proof. He had contractually obligated them to disappear for a year. It was a PR stunt that nearly earned him a life sentence. But while the humans survived, the animals certainly did not. To maintain twisted authenticity, 7 animals were slaughtered on screen, including a turtle decapitated and disemboweled in front of the lens. The film stands as a sickening monument to an abandoned moral compass. If Diodato played a dangerous game of illusion, Roar was pure madness. The cast and crew were forced to live and work with predators, alongside more than 100 untamed lions, tigers, and leopards. There were absolutely no stunt doubles or protective cages. Noel Marshall harbored the delusional belief he could bond with them. The tragic result was a very prolonged and horrific bloodbath. Over 70 crew members were severely mauled during the shoot. The cinematographer was literally scalped by a massive lion. His skull was exposed, requiring 220 stitches to reattach his skin. Tippi Hedren suffered a fractured leg from the beasts. Teenage Melanie Griffith required facial reconstructive surgery after a clawing. The production dragged on for 11 grueling years. It became a massive and complete financial disaster. The sheer terror etched onto their faces is completely unscripted. They were constantly just one growl away from certain death. This arrogant defiance of nature was mirrored by Werner Herzog. His script required a 320-ton steamship to be hauled over a mountain. He flatly refused to use miniatures, opting for a real ship. He used hundreds of real indigenous laborers in the Amazon. The set quickly devolved into a literal living nightmare. Men were crushed under the sliding weight of the vessel. One local laborer was bitten by a deadly venomous snake. He amputated his own foot with a chainsaw to stop the venom. Klaus Kinski was so violently abusive on that set, local tribesmen genuinely offered to murder him on Herzog's behalf. Herzog declined, but the atmosphere was suffocatingly lethal. He famously stated he should be in a lunatic asylum. He finished his masterpiece, leaving broken souls in the mud. In the modern era, this extraction of physical suffering continued. Mel Gibson wanted his audience to feel every agonizing lash. Actor Jim Caviezel felt significantly more than just a lash. A whip missed the protective board and struck Caviezel directly, tearing a 14-inch gash into his bare back. But the real danger actually came from the sky. While filming on a remote hilltop, Caviezel was struck by lightning. Moments later, the assistant director suffered the exact same fate. Caviezel endured hypothermia, a dislocated shoulder, and a lung infection. By the time production wrapped, the physical toll was immense. He literally had to undergo open-heart surgery. Gibson got his authentic, blood-soaked suffering, but his lead actor nearly paid with his own life. This tradition of trading blood for film stock is deeply rooted